What is going on, y'all? Let's just jump straight into this. Right now, we are looking at Bitcoin. We're looking at it on the daily chart. We can see that Bitcoin has had a nice short squeeze this morning and into the afternoon. Currently up about close to 3.5%. A lot of people now will be speculating on, is this the bottom? You know, are we going to go down further from here? We don't know, but let's talk about what this move actually is, because that kind of gives us a little bit more context to make a better decision on whether or not this has further upside. So if we go over to our handy dandy funding metric here, we can see that after this big washout, we'll talk about that in a second, funding started to get negative. Okay, now this does not always mean that shorts are aggressive. Funding is all funding means is, whether it's positive or negative, is that the perpetual price or the derivative is out of balance with the spot price. Okay, so when people are longing very aggressively, typically you're going to see a positive funding increase. Okay, and vice versa. Doesn't always mean that, but typically that's what it means. And usually you'll know based on some other factors, but when you have a big washout like this and then you get negative funding, it means shorts are very aggressive. Interesting is, or the interesting thing to me at this point is that we've had a short squeeze, a decent one, and negative and funding has actually gone down since then, meaning there's a lot of shorts left to take out here. Now, I'm not so sure that it happens today or tomorrow, but I do think that there is a potential here to retest this 200-day moving average, which is roughly 59.2. Again, I'm not saying that happens all at once, but that's really your first level of resistance. Now you have some minor levels of resistance if we go to the 4-hour here. If you're into these moving averages, which I don't really get away from the 1 day, but hey, well, you know, this is something to mention. About 57.5 roughly, you'll get to this this 4-hour 100 moving average, or 100 4-hour moving average, however you want to say that. But it looks pretty good right now. I would say that if you get a pullback, you might be one to scalp long on. Not obviously not financial advice, but I think there's some more room in to squeeze higher here. That's the microstructure. That's what's going on today and probably into tomorrow. Let's talk a little bit about what happened last week. So this was a pretty dramatic move that we had here. I think it was about a 7% move right here that happened on Friday, something like that. We can see that we got this rejection up here. This was a couple weeks ago, and it was just this grind down, just very heavy price. This is not what you want to see typically, and usually this is what happens: is you get people that are shorting and spot selling, and eventually it just buckles. It buckled, and now you're getting a bounce here right at this kind of very interesting level, which is about 52, roughly 52.5. And that's where we bottomed here. It's too early to know if this is actually the bottom, okay? And I don't actually think that it is. I'm going to go into reasons why. I think that it could be a bottom, but we're probably going to retest it. There's a few reasons why. I should have brought this chart up here, but there's a gap down here. We opened up futures roughly like 55 yesterday, the CME. Now you have a gap down here because we actually closed on Friday down here. Typically those gaps get filled. Is it a guarantee? Of course not. Am I going to trade solely on that? Of course not. But they do typically get filled, and I would expect that if we get a move down either next week or the week after, which by the way, those 2 weeks are typically not great for risk assets, I think that it gets filled. As of right now though, like I said, we're probably going to keep going higher, considering you're not really at any level of meaningful resistance until you get about 58, 59. Okay, so things look good in the short term. Why I think this might not last? Number one, if you look at equities, to me this structure has got to, it's not done consolidating. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the bottom. I mean, it's hard not to be bullish on American stocks, the American stock market. But to me, this looks like it is probably going to see further downside. I think you're going to probably squeeze a little bit higher, and then you're probably going to retest this low or maybe make a new low. If I had to guess, and I don't think Bitcoin's going to like that. Now, that doesn't mean that Bitcoin has to make a new low. It just, usually when you have volatility spiking, a risk-off move in equities, Bitcoin usually is going to follow. It has pretty much all year. So one of the reasons also that I think that this could be a short squeeze that gets slapped down is because of some of the economic events that we have going on. You got to remember why we were selling off on Friday in the first place. We're selling off on Friday in the first place because people are worried that the Fed is too late and that we might be heading into a recession and that we may be going into a hard landing, right? Well, we're going to need to see data that disproves that. And you don't really have anything outside of this unemployment claims until you get really until, you know, quite a bit of time. I mean, basically the 23rd, the 23rd of September. You'd have unemployment claims again next week, obviously. Obviously, this is retail sales, core retail sales. This is the big one. Sorry, I missed that one. But it's not about CPI anymore. This doesn't really matter anymore. What the market wants to see is, are we going into a recession or are we not? So it's going to absolutely go crazy if you get good data here. I would suspect this is next Tuesday. But because the market doesn't know, it's likely going to hedge into these events. And it'll likely hedge into this one, obviously, because right now the market's worried that they're going to cut 50 basis points. And the reason why the market doesn't want that is because that's a signal that, oh, they're behind and they're worried and, you know, things are going to start to crumble from here. I don't actually think they do a 50-point hike. I think they do a 25-point hike, but we don't know. It's uncertain at this point. So what I'm saying is whatever rally you get, you will probably sell off into that. Okay. Or if we've already sold off, let's say that by the end of this week and we're selling off into that week, then you're probably going to pump into it. It's all about positioning, right? It's all about positioning right now. It's PvP. Things are uncertain. In uncertainty, you're not going anywhere really up or down. You're just going to be taking out positioning that gets offside, especially for Bitcoin. Now, so that's what we have kind of like in terms of the data and stuff. So nothing really important until you do have unemployment this week. Like I said, CPI doesn't really matter. It might, if it came in really hot, yeah, that would not be good, but it's probably not going to come in hot. So we're going to be really watching out for this unemployment claim, and then Tuesday for the retail sales, okay? U.S. retail sales. This to me is not going to be as big of an event as people think, but again, it's uncertainty. I think they're going to do 25-point cut. But let's go back to, or let me segue this into kind of why I think we need to be careful on focusing on the short term too heavily. September is not good for stocks. It's not good for Bitcoin. I wish I had this chart pulled up. I can't find it. I'm sure I could find it. I'll put it in the Discord, where September really sucks in terms of historical returns. I think on average September is like -5% for Bitcoin, whereas October is like positive 20% on average. There's a reason for this. It's seasonality, and I will be totally honest with you, like I'm surprised at the seasonality, that we're following seasonality so closely again. I mean, it's kind of mind-blowing because there really isn't compelling reasons to sell right now, but people don't care. It's September, and it's just reflexive at that point. Like, oh, September sucks, I better sell, right? You get any sort of bad data at all, and it's magnified. It's like, it has like this magnification, to it, the higher magnitude effects, just because it's in September. Whereas if you would have got some of this stuff, in July or June, the market just shrugs it off. So we have to respect the seasonality. So really all of September and maybe even early October, you have to be cautious because, again, low liquidity, market's on edge. It's just that time of year. But the bigger picture is the global liquidity cycle that we are in. This is the bottom line for me. I think it's the most important factor in terms of trading Bitcoin on a higher time frame. Obviously, it's not going to help you on a lower time frame, but we are just getting started. As you can see right now, global liquidity has been trending higher since 2022, and it's nowhere near elevated levels from a historical standpoint. And I think that as the Fed starts to cut interest rates, it's going to have to shut down its QT program here, and we're going to be going into QE at some point. This is only going to increase, and this is the bottom line for Bitcoin, is that the debt levels of the nations around the world have to be serviced. There is no way around it. More liquidity has to be created, and that is good for risk assets like Bitcoin stocks. It's really not rocket science that the system must have more liquidity. And Bitcoin is very sensitive to liquidity, okay? And we are really getting into sort of a different gear in that sense. Liquidity has been rising, albeit it's been hampered because the U.S. has had, or the Fed has had interest rates at 5%, right? While a lot of other countries have been cutting over the last few months. So we are really getting into the best part of the cycle. And it's interesting because sentiment is so terrible right now. People are freaking out. They think it's over, the cycle's over. And this is like it's funny how before you get into the real meat of the cycle is when everyone loses faith. And this has been the case for Bitcoin every single cycle. I can't remember, and I've been trading this for a long time now. I can't remember when that's not been the case. It seems to just be required at this point that most of the market participants lose faith right before the better part or the best part of the cycle. Okay, so I think I'm just going to keep this pretty simple. I don't want to go into alts right now because I think that, well, I take that back. Let's talk about one more thing. This is Polymarket. If you don't know what this is, a crypto-based betting platform. You can bet on a variety of different things, events. It has Donald Trump quite ahead right now, and it's funny because CNN actually referenced Polymarket. I thought that was very interesting. It's very good for crypto, considering this is a crypto-based application. But crypto and Bitcoin, you got to kind of separate these things right now. Crypto cares a lot about who wins here. Bitcoin obviously cares, but way less. I think Bitcoin's going to do well. Whoever wins, doesn't matter. It already has product market fit. People want it. It's going to be very difficult to prevent people from buying it because the jig is up. We know global liquidity is going to rise. We know it's digital gold. It's an exponential gold that has way more potential than really any other asset that I know of. Wall Street starting to understand this. It's going to do well regardless. But crypto, on the other hand, let's talk about the application layers, whether it's Maker, Aave, Uniswap, or even some of the layer ones like Solana or Ethereum. They very much care about this because the regulations that are in place right now are what is preventing them from scaling. Okay, if they were to integrate with the current financial system, they go and scale 10x very quickly, right? Hard to do that whenever there's no clear guidelines how to do that. With Trump winning, you're probably going to get some clarity there, and maybe you get it with Kamala, but it's uncertain. And I think some people would make the case that it's not going to happen with her, right? I try to be open-minded on that, but crypto cares a lot about this. So I'm mentioning this to say that I don't think that altcoins are going to do particularly great until we get past the election. All right, that's all I'm going to cover today. And until next time, happy hunting.
Hey, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel if you'd like more updates like this, and let us know in the comments, what do you think about today's video and DeFiancy update and insight? Also, make sure that you join our Discord, our free community chat where we discuss things like this, what's going on in real time. Typically, our Discord community is the first to know what's happening, and we would love to see you there. Check the link in the description. And until then, we'll see you in the next DeFiancy Insight video. Bye for now.